Welcome back to the second part of the Chronicles of the Wasteland, the game, or the video game, Devlog. So what I'm going to give is a bit of background to the project as I go in, so a little bit more conceptual, and also some of the progress that we're beginning to make. So very early days. You can see behind me some beautiful art from the creator, Shane Evans. He gave it to me as a gift, which is cool. And one thing I should be transparent about is I helped a little bit on the project, so some creative ideas and editing really and concepts. So I do have a link to it, but really this is Shane's baby, Shane's characters and story. I just was a helper. But I do make video games, and so I'm, like I say, I'm happy to give my first ever IP a go. So we've got issue 1, which came out in 2023, and so the project's been running for several years now, and it was a 4-part series. So pretty cool covers featuring the different characters. So far we've had Dodge, Chief, and next up Portia, who's the love interest, and on the wraparound we have another big bad that will get revealed throughout. But if you're familiar with movies, now Shane's a big fan, that's an Aliens homage. And Shane being a comic guy, of course, book 4 is a homage to Wolverine versus the Hulk. So that was pretty cool. I can't remember the exact date. It must have been 2024 the series wrapped up and the last issue was released, because early this year there was even a gift box, a limited edition gift box with the 4 books and some art. So really cool. Hopefully that gave a little bit of insight. I will show more of the story throughout these videos and more insights around the characters. Now, one thing that's interesting is like the character Dodge. There were several kind of concept arts early on before the project really kicked off, and he was somewhat inspired by a particularly bad animated adaptation of He-Man, but they made super chunky figures. So I'll show you the figure here, because I believe that was a key inspiration for some of the look of the book. Anyway, we'll go into it in detail. I'll share my screen from the next bit. Just wanted to give a bit of insight and show the comic for those who aren't familiar with it. The comic is an indie comic. I think it's had several hundred prints, still a very low print run, and it's mainly in New Zealand. I think a few have got over to Australia and further, you know, sending to friends, etc. And if you look online, things like Heroes for Sale, what's the other ones? I can't remember off the top of my head. I will list them as I go through and kind of promote it a bit. I do know that a collector graphic novel is coming out soon, and that may be a preferred item for those people overseas, because I know there are a lot of passionate people who like the whole story. I quite enjoy collecting the floppies, but it can get expensive doing it that way, especially with international shipping. Anyway, that's not what this is about. Let's continue on with what we've been up to. Now, as I've promised from the start, I'm going to be super transparent throughout this project and share you. So fellow G-Develop users, you might learn something, and also you'll see, like, you know, I haven't like changed massively overnight. We've only progressed so far. This is my G-Develop scene here. Changed slightly because we've put the sheets onto external events to make it tidier and more manageable. And then in here we've got much the same activity. So we've got our icons like we had planned, and then we've actually got some player sprites. Now these have been set up with top-down controls, which is necessary for that kind of final fight movement that I'm hoping for, where segments of the screen will be the floor. We'll have some jumping areas and some floor, but that's all an illusion. I'll show that as that goes. Now the yellow player is set up on the other side of the keyboard, because I do want to make it keyboard friendly just for people to play on itch.io, etc. But the main reason we've done this initial bit is to set up for controllers. So I'm fortunate because I'm working with a friend who's acting as a bit of a mentor and looking at and helping guide me a little bit through the process, help me fine-tune. Is a much better programmer than me. And so I've been told that these have been set up for controllers. So I'm going to get some controllers plugged in at some stage when I have some art or some scenery. And we're going to test that out and just see how it looks. Obviously, lots of work to go. We've got animations to slap in. We've got all that other goodness. So I haven't done tons at this point. We'll see here my player icons. I just added Portia and another dude here. Now for the 2 players or however many players you want to do, it probably would have been easier just to do one and duplicate at the end, but basically you want them to mirror each other because the character you select ultimately is going to end up being a number. Although you can search for it by name, but I find it easier, you know, just keeping a list of the numbers and then referring to them. And obviously you want to keep that uniform across the different people you could be playing. Makes things a lot easier. So what have I been doing? So I kind of reached out to my friend Jamie, who I've worked with on several projects over time and had a bit of fun doing game jams, placing well. Like I say, he's quite a talented programmer, so he's quite busy, but he's offered just to be a bit of a mentor and look over me. The controller aspect, you know, in GDevelop, he's explained to me is just as simple as it's an extension built in, and then obviously you refine it and tailor it. At the moment it's just up, down, left, right, which only takes you so far, and we're going to refine and kind of play through that. So I'll get into that and test it as we get more there. But what we began on was getting GitHub set up so I can kind of share information. Now, I'm not super strong with this stuff, but again, mentors and experience from game jams has taught me to learn how to use it. So basically, you share your directory, your repository, and in this case, I made it private, and I'm just giving access to people who are collaborating with me on it. And then it's browser-based. So in here, this is the files. So we've got the sprites folder, assets, and I started making references. So what we started with is a game document, and so it's shared to everyone that's been given access. Here we go, and let's have a look at that, because to be honest with you, I didn't have that before. I have to go get it from my own folder, but that's all right. I'll pull that over. So it's mirroring this folder here on my hard drive, and I'm pushing through the updates, and when others update it, I pull through their changes. So in here, where were we going? We're going into the game doc. All right, making a game that follows and expands on the full 4 comic story arc of the indie comic Chronicles of the Wastelands. Beautiful. We can call it Chronicles of the Wastelands, the video game. So shoot and slash. So I've mentioned before, the book is equally car orientated, and although I like Carmageddon and Twisted Metal and things like that, even Burnout, I'm not a huge car guy, and so I'm taking the focus into the shooting and slashing aspect and hoping to add some violence and gore and adventure there. But I am absolutely going to include a car segment, and you know what, you guys are going to get to work with me as we kind of figure out what that might look like, because we've got a bunch of options. It's quite possibly top down at this point, but it may change. So it's going to be on PC. Obviously I do game jams a lot, and that's what I'm used to doing. Mobiles are complicated and wouldn't be suitable for this kind of game. Consoles and stuff, that's above my pay grade. Sure, if it looks good at the end of it and you like it, reach out to me. I'm happy to look at getting it built for consoles. That would be cool. Core fantasy, experience a comic book world with story and power fantasy heroic gameplay. So yeah, my stuff tends to have a story element, so I hope that I'm able to tell the story well, but also give you that power. These are powerful individuals in a ruthless, kind of dominating, cruel world, and so I'm hoping I can show that. Core game loop, players up to 2 local, move and progress through levels. Now I will mention on GDevelop, they've made it super friendly for online lobbies and things. It's just not an area where I've built confidence. So again, depending on how this comes along, I might change this two-player bit to could be local, could be online. Being someone who grew up in the 80s and 90s, I'm just so used to hot seats and being at the same console and monitor that for my memory and warm fuzzy feelings of that retro environment, I just, if I think of what I would like and what people might like, I always picture that, and probably just thinking in nostalgia. Fighting various enemies and obstacles. Now there will be a stealth aspect and other things to it as well. Player can utilize found or dropped objects, so I'm planning on core melee weapons per character, and some of them can have a core shooter as well, but generally like a lot of them are going to be picking up stuff, and then I'll be a bit of fun, like kind of Final Fight, Streets of Rage style. Bosses, obviously, and I'm hoping to have challenges and unlocks. Now, I did want the two-player, but then since I've kind of got involved in this, and it's good to, again, be transparent, I've realized two-player is not suitable for the story mode. So I think I'm going to have a free play, which will have one base level built in, but then when you clock the story, you unlock free play mode, and you can play two players on it, and therefore the storytelling won't get all broken up. I'll just be focused on fun and, action adventure. Alright, so we've obviously got left, right, up, down, jump, pick up, interact, attack, switch weapon, use zipline. So that was the late edition, but I'm adding some verticality to it because I realize visually I'd like to have that kind of depth, and you need things like that to pull the player across and make things look a bit more dynamic. Health and ammo is all we've got here. Credits, so I think I'm just going to make it like cruel with the credits where you have what's required, but if you're not particularly good, then you might have to brush up and you only get so far. Probably the unlocks, I think, will allow you to buy more credits permanently, where your max credits is one more, and so it'll get easier over time to allow people to experience it. Again, I'm thinking through everything as I go. I haven't really voiced that before, but I definitely thought about it. How do we help people kind of just keep on having an enjoyable play? Maybe they earn these coins where they can unlock stuff, and they go, hey, I need another credit. Perfect. Maybe that's a good solution. I'm thinking just firing left and right, so no up and down. I did plan on a grappling hook for one character, so I haven't quite pictured that yet, but we'll figure that out when we get there. Thrown weapons, so that's going to be similar to the fired ones, but obviously you get one shot of your spear, and then you can go pick it up. Melee left and right, and then maybe jump attack with melee. I think it's necessary, but obviously playtesting is going to help us figure this out, because also I'm fairly new and I want to make this achievable for me, but then that combat's got to be fun, so test it out and see how we get on, and just find the sweet spot there, and we'll find it together. Maybe unlimited ammo as like an upgrade where you fire really fast and you just gib everyone and cover the map with blood for a little while. That could be fun. Invincibility, maybe. Undecided, but like again, just thinking of the retro kind of gaming, what some of those tropes and things that make games fun are. Those hard boss fights and things. Those are two things that could be helpful. Simple AI, so spawn near you, walk across, beat you up. People with ranged weapons keep their distance. So fairly basic things, so probably just sensor radiuses around them. I'll show you some of that when I get into the characters and trying to build these patterns. Boss, more complex patterns. So I think just having really big, bombastic, kind of diverse options there. So it could be just a real tough dude who's just very similar to the warrior kind of characters, or it could be some kind of machine with tentacles and arms everywhere and lasers and all sorts. I think we're not limited by that, so our imagination's the limit, and so I think we probably can make some really cool experiences there. But again, it's going to take fine-tuning, playing around, and just coming up with it. And bosses could use environments against players, so like someone who like drops in explosive barrels and then just blows them all up and chuckles kind of thing. Using stuff in the environment, pulling everything together. I think that does make a difference in games, and hopefully I can do that. Progression level by level. So checkpoints, because people get really upset about no checkpoints. credits start you at the last checkpoint, so you lose a credit and go back a little, maybe, or back to the very close. And if you run a credits, game over. Meta, unlock new characters, extra nut. I've always enjoyed that, so Mortal Kombat's been good with that kind of stuff, like lots of extras that you can unlock. Maps to be determined following the comics. So some scenes I will tell through storytelling, maybe cutscenes, maybe motion comics, maybe stills and text. And then scenes are going to be broken down into levels and fleshed out a little, but following the path of the story. Art style, simple 2D sprites, side views, lower res retro, so I am using very small resolution on this. So in here in properties and icons, 480 by 270. Now you're going to ask me why I came up with that, and this is fine. So you can say, hey, don't change the resolution at all. It's designed to fit the monitor nicely. Yes, it doesn't go away to the edge. That's fine. That's part of that retro thing. I went through a habit of making 800 by 600 just because I grew up with the old monitors and things. This one's designed to scale nicely with the screen, but then what I can do is I can keep the pixels in line. I can keep the sprites in line, because when you're doing pixel art, it's very easy to use different levels of pixels and things. So like this might have twice as many pixels as a character, or the level might have 10 times as many pixels as the character in resolution, and that's not good. So I'm going to build everything to this scale, and it does improve things. So it might be more basic, but it will be better. Now where was I? Back in Word. I think we're pretty much here. So we're going to have some continuous music loops, clear hits, level up and death sounds. The music loop, perhaps when it hits into the boss thing, there'll be escalation points where the music tension rises. So that's part of sound design and can be really cool. Object pooling, I haven't used it so much, but it's important like for bullet hell games and things where there's a lot of sprites. This one, I'm going to be killing the bullets as they go, but I have had the experience of really bad running out of memory and grind and games dying. And so, if object pooling is the solution, I'm certainly going to try it. That's where I put aside like 20 bullets on the side of the screen, and then when they get shot and technically are going to delete, they get pulled and zipped into this position until they're fired again. And so therefore you're only ever using the 20 bullets at a time. It's quite cool, and you can use it for anything. So it's just using limited things where, bullets, obviously through the course of the game, 10,000 of them could be shot. And the issue with that is, have they all been deleted? Are they all hanging around in memory? Because that can be problematic. Win-lose conditions, finish level and progress to next are really simple there. And that's kind of the game doc. That's going to grow. That's a very basic one. But you know what? Like with just me and my friend Jamie, like looking over my shoulder, that's plenty. And I can refine it and build it as I go. A lot of the stuff's in my head, but like I'm the main dude working on this. So that's cool. That said, I'm not a musician. And my friend Shane is very passionate about not using AI and respecting creatives. And as someone who's weak with music, I have used things before or bought songs and done this and that. But I found a musician to work with me, Wilson. And so you're honoring the project. And so this is going to be core grunt work from us. So there won't be AI art, there won't be AI music, promise you. All right, now this could be embarrassing, but I'm going to share it because hopefully it inspires some of you. Now, some of you might have seen, and I'll see if I can find it and put it up, but my last game, Dagger, I showed the progression of my concept from my head, how do I do a 1-bit slasher, into what it became as the game itself. And do play it and have a look at it. I'll show that, but this game's very much in the same style, so I'm thinking scale. So I've done this for my colleagues, so I'm like, okay, how am I doing characters? So I think more caricature kind of style, squish, squat, muscly. Now, so I need to get an idea of scale on the screen, so I'm thinking about 80 pixels tall is that heroic character height, dodge, chief, fine, something around there. Now I'd make them bigger with them at the base of it to give the scope for big sword slashes and effects. Or blood splatters, you know, like say they got completely gibbed and I wanted blood to drip everywhere, but hand animated, then I need that space to do so. Although I would suggest using a different sprites for the blood personally, because you can't know what surface they're on. It would work on flat ground fine. So there's an idea, and so when you're doing, what's it called, like bone work, you quite often color code so you can keep track of the movement. So I've just kind of done that as a reference for myself. I hadn't done anything bone wise, and you know what, this is just an idea of the size of what it might look like. On here I've put the truck from the beginning of the story, your first or maybe second or third scene in, and then this is to scale. So the Wastelands is very desolate, some rocky outcrops. And so, yeah, I've got to work on the palette, but this is purely visually just to get the feel of how it might look. Now, I want the characters to be present. I want the action to be visceral. So the sizing there looks good to me. And again, like if you're just looking at this at face value, you might go, oh, this guy's useless. But I promise you, check out Night Dagger, and like this obviously is full color. I'm going to put more time and energy into it. Night Dagger was made in 9 days. I've asking my friend Andrew Gorman to be a concept artist, but he makes beautiful characters. Like he captures more personality than me. So sure, I can animate someone walking and doing stuff, but quite a lot of my characters become wooden or fairly uniform. And so I want to get that initial concept of the character's personality and give them a bit of quirk. And then from there, I can go into the pixel art and put bones in them and do the animations I need. So the artwork will be me, but for the character designs and the development conceptually, I'll get a little bit of help from a friend. So I got him to sign up and help me out. So on here, you can see this is pretty tiny, but this is that same scene. So it's the idea of the scale of what the whole level might look like. And this is really rough. So in the book, he heads to the mountain fortress to rescue Portia. And he's doing a stealth mission. So these reds are maybe suggestions of where enemies could be. And this is your first experience at a hack and slash. So he wanders out, can get into a fight there. You know, the risk of someone raising the alarm. Looks down, there's this big scene, so maybe a pan or a cutscene showing this and just reinforcing what it is. Now we'll need to build in parallax and things just to add to the effect. And these are going to be zip lines. So the green's just there to highlight it visually so it stands out for me. There's a gate, there's some barbed wire on top. So he's going to zip line down. With more thought, I'm thinking like some foreground kind of outcrops and things. So, you know, building more depth and dimension to it. But maybe here there could be a foreground outcrop and there's a dude on there, and when you swing past, you boot him off. And then it can seem like it's a gameplay element, but it really will just be an animation, but it'll add a lot to it. And then you can have some fun and send him towards the camera. And then he's getting into the base, so working his way through. So it's just an idea, but again, I'm just sharing this really openly so people can follow the project, understand what's going on, understand the game. The channel, like, is there to help learn, and I'm not there to say I'm better than people. I'm here to learn and improve my skills and make creative fun stuff and share, you know, exciting things. And so I'm hoping this is a lot of fun. Obviously this is just one level, one part of a level. And, you know, that just reminds me of how big this project could be. But you know what, if I get this scene together, nothing's in the way to stop me other than time of getting the next one together. And so I'm just going to keep on tracking forward with this. I'm really happy and I'm proud to be slowly piecing together a team. If this seems like something you'd be interested in being part of, feel free to reach out. Like, if you've got a skill I don't have, or even if you want to help me draw the characters and rig them and make the, you know, those things, I'm happy to talk with people and share the journey. You know, this is just all about creating something and having a good time. You know what? I'm having a good time. So I'll sign off with that. That's Devlog 2 of the Chronicles of the Wasteland. Hopefully I've shared lots, and obviously I've shown that not tons of programming's happened, and that's okay. These kind of projects can't just happen overnight. They're not just going to happen at the snap of a finger, and you're not going to get your best work in a week. You can make fun game jam games, and sometimes this graphics here that I've drawn quickly, obviously, if you're doing a 1 week game jam, you can make cool little games with that kind of level, and that's cool because you're kind of just showing people your vision. And game jams aren't about the finished product. They're about like experimenting, learning, building something cool and new. Anyway, I'll look forward to talking to you next time. All the best.